welcome back to Modern Retro Gal. My name's JL. Today's video, we are going to go over color correcting. I had a couple of requests for this video after I did some color correcting in a mini tutorial for another video. And you all were interested in how I color correct and kind of learning a little bit more about that. So that is what today's video is going to be all about, is what is color correcting, what color shades do you need, and how I do it. And I have color corrected half of my face. Can you tell which side is color corrected? You may be able to just by looking closely, but you are going to find out. So if this is something that has been confusing to you or you are not sure about, you're going to want to stay tuned for this video. I do some color theory in this, and that's really important to understanding how color correcting works. If you are new to my channel, hello, how's it going? I hope you will stay. Please click that little subscribe button down below. I would love to have you as part of the fam. I am trying to hit 2,000 subscribers by the end of this year, so I need your help. And if you like to makeup tutorials and makeup tips and tricks, especially for people with more mature skin, this is a channel that you're going to want to subscribe to. So without further ado, let's get into color theory and color correcting. Okay, so before we get started with the actual tutorial of showing how I put color correctors on my face, we're going to talk a little bit about color theory. It's important to understand this aspect of color theory as it relates to color correcting on your skin before you know which color corrector shades to choose, whether you're going to need multiples. So I'm going to put up kind of a standard color wheel. This one works well for generally everyday makeup, understanding how colors relate to each other. And so what we're really looking at is complementary colors, and that's how color correctors work. So you want to think of things like red and green. Red and green are always associated as going together. They are complementary on the color wheel, meaning they are opposites on the color wheel. You see this often with most Christmas decorations tend to have red and green in them because they look so good together. Other things that you can look at to kind of understand this is even in a lot of sports teams, they use complementary colors. The Los Angeles Lakers are yellow and purple or violet are complementary or opposites on the color wheel. There is a football team, the Broncos, they are orange and blue. Orange and blue are complementary or opposites on the color wheel. So this is how it works with color correctors. If you have a lot of redness, to color correct that, you're going to use a green color corrector. If you have a lot of purple, violet tones, maybe under the eyes, or if you ended up with a bruise somewhere that you wanted to try to cover up if you were going to an event or going out, you would want to use yellow. If the darkness in the some area is more blue, for instance, the vein on the inside of my nose is very blue, and then right here, right on the very inside corner, is very blue for me under my eyes, so I use yellow to color correct that. This area tends to be a little bit of a red and purple mixture, so I tend to use a little bit of orange, a little bit of green, and a little bit of yellow to kind of deal with all of the colors under here. But I'm going to go through now all of the color correcting tones and how they relate to what they would color correct on your face. These also kind of run from the palest to the darkest of skin tones. So color correction doesn't really your natural undertones for your skin doesn't really play a part. So whether you're warm, neutral, or cool doesn't really play a part in what color corrector you're going to choose. It's really about how deep that color correcting shade is and how it relates to the tones that you want to cancel out. So the color correctors that you see most of the time are pink yellow, green, violet, peach, orange, and red. Orange and red are going to be for your tan to very deep dark tones to color correct darkness under the eyes. Fair to medium skin tones are not going to need to go in the actual orange to red zone. If you ever see people doing tutorials that are lighter skinned and are using a really bright or deep orange or even red, it's completely unnecessary. So pink is going to work for the fairest of the fair. So your porcelain or very, very light, pale skin tones to help correct just general under eye darkness. So if you're someone who doesn't really see necessarily a lot of blue or violet or red, you just kind of have like that dark kind of sleepy undertone, sleepy under eye darkness, a pink should work fine for you. If you do see more violet, purple, or blues, you can work with a yellow or peach. Sometimes peach is also referred to as like a salmon tone for under eye correctors. You can try one of those and see how it works. We're not using a ton of product. We'll get into that in a minute, how much you should be using, but you don't have to use a ton, so you don't really have to worry about it darkening the area or discoloring that area. But this is kind of just a general of how these shades work, so you can kind of play around with them and see. Yellow works really well on blue. Next we have yellow. Yellow works really well on blue tones. So like I said, if you have kind of like this darker vein on the inner corner of your eye that creates a lot of darkness and shadow, if you notice that your under eye darkness tends to pull a little bit more blue, that works really, really well. Yellow can work on a multitude of skin tones. You do not need to worry about if you were on the neutral or cool side, yellow not working for you. That's kind of only in the realm of if you use like the banana setting powder that became really popular for a while, or if you use a foundation shade that has a yellow undertone. That's not going to work for your skin. But a color corrector that is yellow will work if you have kind of more of those blue undertones. Green, like we talked about, is going to be used to color correct red. A lot of us have redness around the nose. I get it really bad right here in between my eyebrows. I have some redness in my skin because I just generally have like a lot of redness in my cheeks, on my chin, around my nose. I'm just a very like red person. So that is what green works for. Violet is one of those color correctors where it is a very specific group that is going to use violet. If you don't fall into this group and you try and use a violet color corrector, it may make your skin look a little strange. And so if you've ever tried one and felt like this doesn't work, you probably didn't need it. So violet is going to correct sallow looking skin, very dull looking skin, kind of like if you're very sick, your skin kind of just loses pigment, kind of loses color. You look very sallow, sometimes even maybe like a touch gray. It's going to work for that. Very mature, older skin tends to kind of lose some of that pigment and some of that like brilliance that we have in our skin. And so that's what a yellow color corrector is going to work for. Other people that I've noticed, if you fall into this category, sometimes people who are very, very neutral skin tone, so much so that they almost look like they're sickly all the time, like there's no pigment in their skin, could benefit from a lavender color corrector because it will help brighten the skin. This is normally light to medium skin tone. It's going to work best. It's one of those things where if you try it and it just looks weird on your skin, then you don't need it. But if you try it and you feel like it really helps to brighten your skin, then you're someone who needs it. And I feel like a lavender, kind of like me needing green all over my face, that's kind of generally who is gonna benefit from the lavender color corrector is someone who kind of like all over their face just looks very kind of dull and lifeless, and that is where the lavender is really going to come in and be beneficial. Next we have peach. So peach is going to correct blue tones in the under eye. A lot of people end up benefiting from peach as an under eye corrector. A lot of time we have those kind of purpley blue tones, and so because in the color spectrum, peach and like going one above or below peach, and then the blue one above or below, they tend to kind of it tends to be like a little bit orange and then a little bit lavender or violet, and so kind of that pinky peach salmony color can work if you're a little bit blue or a little bit purple under the eyes. Next is going to be orange. This is going to be for dark circles, for tan to darker skin tones. It can also soften brown pigmentation on those same skin tones. And then red is for dark under eyes, and this is for the darkest, deepest skin tones only. Anybody under that really doesn't need a red. Orange would be fine. So that is kind of color theory and how the different color correcting shades work on different areas of the skin. So now I'm going to show you on my skin how I do this. I'm going to do it on one half of my face. I'm going to do it on this half of my face. And then I'm going to do the same makeup technique that I do on this half, but without the color corrector. So I'm going to have to move my bangs out of the way. So one of the things that I really like is this red color correcting, primer. So this is a green primer. I kind of put it all over the skin, and it really helps to color correct red tones in my face. It's going to be a little bit difficult to get it just on one half, but we will persevere. So you can kind of start to see as I work this into the skin that a lot of those red tones are already starting to neutralize. It's not necessarily going to completely erase them, but it's going to definitely put them in their place. Okay, so here we are with just half of my face done with the green color corrector to help with the redness. So hopefully this really kind of shows through, that you can see how much it's helped, especially right here around my nose. It gets very, very red. The redness on my chin isn't as intense on this side as it is over here. And then a lot of the redness in my cheeks has been neutralized. Obviously, it doesn't cover everything. It's not meant to. It's only meant to color correct the redness. And then you can see on my forehead that it's not as red as it is over here. I don't typically as heavily color correct my forehead just because I wear bangs and it's not really that necessary. So next I'm going to go in with some of the other shades. I have the color correcting compact from Stila. This one has a yellow, a pink, a peach, an orange, a green, and then it also has a yellow powder and a lavender powder. I don't really dip into these. I honestly, for the money, wish that these pans were bigger and they went ahead and included a red color corrector and just left the powders out. I don't really find them necessary. Maybe they just could have done a lavender and a red and made everything a little bit bigger. But I do think for the money, these creams are really, really good. I know there are some drugstore options. I'm going to talk about that a little bit once I'm kind of done with all of the makeup. But I basically go in and end up using almost all four of these shades, just depending on how my skin is doing right now. So I'm going to go in with the yellow first. Let me find my brush. Okay. I like to use a flat brush. This is really dirty. That is actually a duo fiber brush. I feel like it blends really well, and it deposits the product really nicely. It's a little bit hard to see because it is so dirty, but the tops of the bristles are a duo fiber, and then it has like the regular fiber. If you're curious, this is a Delium 775 brush, and this has just become my favorite to do color correcting. So I'm going to go in with the yellow. I am going to just pick up a little bit of product, not a ton. We don't need a lot. You're not trying to absolutely cover it and turn your skin yellow. You're just trying to put a thin layer on there to help correct and sort of soften those tones and take them out of your skin so that when you put your makeup on, those tones aren't still present. So I just work in really light layers of this. I never, very rarely do I, for the yellow, do I really dip back in. I am right now because I'm just going to take it also a little bit right here. This is where I still have a lot of blue. So I kind of pull it down into this crevice also. And then the top of this is really just like a purpley tone in here that I'm going to correct. So that is it. You don't see yellow. You don't see the yellow corrector really like coming through on my skin. It's just really taken that dark vein and this dark kind of blue line that I get right here on this crevice of my lower eye away. I don't typically worry about cleaning my brush in between colors because I have a lot going on with different shades right here. Layering the shades is totally fine. So next I'm going to go in with the peach. And I'm just going to kind of go over this space and just kind of finish up color correcting right here on the inner section of my eye. I don't pull this all the way across because I don't really need it, and because this has more redness on this side, I used that green color corrector all over my face and under my eyes, so it already color corrected this area. And since I'm not dark here, I'm not going to put any more product on there because you don't want a ton of layers and a lot of thick layers, especially when you have a little bit more mature skin. So that looks really good and really nicely, everything's nicely blended. And so you can see the difference that that made from this side of my face with no color correction to this side. It almost looks like I'm wearing foundation on this side of my face because all of the tones that I don't want have been color corrected, and it's just the rest of my natural skin showing through. So now we're going to go in with makeup over that, and you'll be able to see the difference that it makes and with makeup on top of it not being color corrected and being color corrected. So I'm just going to use my regular tinted CC cream to go on my face, and then some concealer. So here we go. So here is just with my tinted CC cream as my foundation today. You can see how much it has corrected, having that color corrector underneath. Really almost for a day-to-day, I wouldn't need to put any concealer on if I didn't want to, but you can see how much of the redness and discoloration that I have coming through with this side not being color corrected. So we're going to put on some concealer now, just to show you with all of the makeups on the face how this would turn out. So here we go. So we are back with concealer. So again, you can see just how much more perfected this side of my face is with having added the concealer. And you can see this side does look good. Like, it looks good. This concealer is really amazing. It does a really good job of covering, but you can see there's still that darkness that is showing through, that I would have to add more layers of foundation or more layers of concealer. Whereas this side, it's looking pretty dang good, pretty well concealed. Very, very little, if any, discoloration and darkness showing through. And so that is the magic of using a color corrector underneath your makeup. And you can really see how just a thin layer of product really does wonders for correcting and balancing the skin. So I am going to put on a little bit more makeup for the rest of this video, and we're going to talk about high-end versus drugstore and where to get your color concealer. Okay, so we're back with a little bit more makeup on. So let's talk about where to get color correctors, or whether or not you need a multi-palette like this one from Stila, or just a single color corrector. So a lot of that is really going to depend on how much you want to color correct. I do recommend, if you have a lot of redness all over your face, a color correcting primer like this one is a really good investment, because you are using it all over your face. For me personally, I have a lot of redness all over in multiple areas, and so it makes more sense to just go ahead and use a green color corrector everywhere, rather than trying to spot treat all over my face. If I try to do that with, for instance, the color corrector, the green one in here, I would be using a lot of product, trying to blend it all over my face. Typically, if I have a really stubborn red acne spot, then I'll go ahead and go in with this one, because the formula is a little bit thicker and stickier, and I'll kind of just set it on there and let it rest for a little bit and then blend it out. I personally really like the formula of the Stila one. I think it's really good. Whoops, it has this little thing that likes to pop out sometimes. I definitely think that it's worth the money, because I am someone who does a lot of color correcting, and I really like the formula. So this is a really good one. NYX does make a color corrector that is similar to this one. However, it has, instead of having like an orange in it, it does have a peach, but instead of having an orange in it for someone who is darker, it has a lavender or like a violet. And I think that, again, unless you're someone who really specifically needs a violet color corrector, spending the money, even for drugstore, to get a violet color corrector is kind of a waste of money if you don't need it and you're never going to use it. I know Wet n Wild has one. Again, it has a violet over a peach or salmon color corrector, which I think is unfortunate. You could just go out and get a separate green and a separate peach or pink color corrector, or yellow, depending on if you just maybe only need a couple and you don't really want to spend the money on having a multi-tone compact. LA Girl also has color correcting concealers, and they have a pretty wide range, so you could also go that route and pick up a few of those. So it's really kind of how you want to spend that money. How many do you want? Several tubes of all of the shades? Or would you rather have a compact like this that kind of has all of the shades, even if you're not necessarily using every single one? If you're using at least 3 like me, then I think having a compact like this is worth it. It's definitely one of those things where you're just going to kind of want to shop around these multi-tone color correcting compacts and see which one is the best bang for your buck. You could also look into some more professional brands like Ben Nye, I think is it, Kryolan. These are all kind of more like industry professional brands, but you can buy them as a non-professional makeup artist. Things like Cinema Secrets. What are some other ones? There's another one, I just can't think of it right now. But I'll put a couple of links to some like professional makeup artist websites that sell these products down below, and you can kind of shop around. Sometimes they're less expensive than something like a Stila brand. You're not paying for a popular brand, you're just paying for the actual like product. And you can kind of try those out. Sometimes the formulas may be a little bit different, but the key is using thinner layers. I have seen videos where people just put tons of it all over their face, like yellow, pink, green, lavender, everywhere, and then they're like blending it all in, and you don't want to use that much product on your face. When I use the green color corrector on my face, I use just enough to get a nice like even canvas. It's a small amount, it's a primer, then I put my makeup on top of it. When I use it under my eye, I'm not using a ton of it under here. I'm using a small thin amount to do the color correcting job, but not adding so much product that I'm gonna have just a ton of product on laying on my skin. So that is really it for color correcting, how I do it, how I layer my makeup on top of it. I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any other questions about color correcting, please leave them down below. I'll be more than happy to troubleshoot things with you. Sometimes whether you need a pink, a yellow, or a peach is really going to depend on your personal preference of how it ends up covering the darkness under your eyes that you have. For again, like with me, I have red, purple, and blue around this area that contributes to my under eye darkness, and so I use a thin layer of a little bit of 3 color correctors in order to help get rid of that. As you can see, it makes a huge difference, especially under my eyes, and I don't have to use as much makeup on top of it. So that is it. And yeah, I did have a request in addition to this video to do my eyebrow routine, and I'm going to do that in a separate video. I was just going to make this one much too long. It's already ended up being longer than I had planned on. So I appreciate you sticking with me through the end. But keep an eye out for that. I do have an eyebrow tutorial already. I will link that down below, but I'm going to do an updated one. I don't think my eyebrows were microbladed at the time, and the angle of the camera isn't the best. So I do want to redo that one and just kind of talk about how I do my eyebrows and what works for me. So that is it for me. Stay tuned. I am going to have a bonus video at the end of this week. You guys are getting 2 videos this week. Maybe that will bump up my videos in the YouTube algorithm. Who knows? But stay tuned for that. And thanks so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you again soon.